Hello everyone, this is Wrestling Watcher, a YouTube channel that's about watching professional wrestling. So Ronda Rousey recently was on the Lapsed Fan podcast, and she talked about her professional wrestling career, her time in WWE, and she says that she is pretty much retired and that professional wrestling, the WWE, that part of her life is in a rearview mirror. She says that the main reason she got into professional wrestling, WWE, was to wrestle the four horsewomen of the MMA world that were in the business. Jessamyn Duke, Marina Shafir, and of course Shayna Baszler. And she says that one of her main issues with WWE is that she felt like she was forced into mediocrity, that she was kept from achieving her full potential. Now, she is an amazing athlete, and she had definitely had that aura about her where she was sort of like a Brock Lesnar of her division. She felt like the final boss of her division, of the women's division. And whenever you have a final boss like that, who's in real life a final boss, a legit tough person, one of the toughest people ever. I mean, she was an Olympian in judo, right? She was a medalist. She was a UFC champion. She's a legit badass in real life. And whenever you have a final boss like that, who's legit, it kind of bends the fourth wall of reality a little bit. Because in real life, the babyface that takes that heel final boss character down can't actually do it. Kind of takes you out of it a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, I think for a long time, if we look at Brock Lesnar, when he won that title from Cena especially, and became the world champion, and he held that title, and he was constantly winning world championships between then and 2019, that 5-year period, he was sort of that final boss character in WWE. Right? And it was almost booked like, if the top babyface can take down Brock Lesnar, who's, the final boss character. And I don't mean that like The Rock, who is literally called the final boss. I mean the final boss as in like a video game. You play a video game for hours and hours, right? Sometimes dozens of hours, sometimes hundreds of hours, and finally you get to the final boss. Bowser for Mario, right? That sort of character that's just the hardest character to defeat in the game. Well, that's what I mean by the final boss character. That's what Brock Lesnar was for roughly 5 years. He was booked like, if Roman Reigns could get past him, he'd be the top face. If Seth Rollins in 2019 could get past Lesnar, he beat him twice that year, he would be the top baby face and he would be made. Except it bends kind of the fourth wall of reality, because it reminds you that in real life, none of these people could really take Lesnar in a fight. Neither Roman nor Seth. And it's sort of the same thing with Ronda Rousey, right? A Sasha Banks, a Charlotte Flair, a Becky Lynch, a Bayley, none of those wrestlers, as talented as they are in real life, can take Ronda Rousey in a fight. So in a match, you realize it's a work. And I think it takes away some of the impact. Right? And now, I know you listen to that and you think, well, of course it's a work. Pro wrestling's a work. But there's a work, and then it's just a work where it's so blatant that it takes you out of it. In my opinion. That's just how I see it. Now, I always thought Ronda Rousey was a bit, let's say, shoved down people's throats. And rightfully so. When they brought her in, it was 2018. I believe it was an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. It was the month before WrestleMania 34. They brought her in, right? And they brought her in as this shiny baby face, and they put her against the Authority at the time, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, especially Stephanie McMahon. and they tried to force feed her as a babyface. The problem is she's just not a natural babyface. She's a natural heel. If she came in as a heel character, that might have been a different run entirely. But it just felt not quite right. Look, we all know professional wrestling's a work. We all know that, wrestlers go in there, they work together to create the spectacle of a match where you are allowed to suspend disbelief, enjoy the storyline, and be entertained. Right? It's a TV show. It's a performance. We understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're fans. That's why we're all here. We watch Superman versus Doomsday to be entertained. We watch Goku versus Vegeta to be entertained. We watch Freddy versus Jason to be entertained. There's endless entertainment out there we watch to be entertained. Professional wrestling is just like it. We watch it to be entertained. We want to have fun stories, good characters, quality entertainment. That's what wrestling fandom is. But the thing with Ronda Rousey is, in real life, you know that she could tear Becky Lynch apart if she wanted to. We know that. And that fact takes you out of it a little bit. Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. In real life, you would suspect that Charlotte Flair would probably beat Becky Lynch in a real fight. She looks like a better athlete. But we can suspend belief and get into a story and believe that Becky Lynch can overcome Charlotte Flair. We don't view that as the same kind of gap that we would with a Ronda Rousey. I mean, and when you think of it from that perspective, when Ronda Rousey says they didn't let her be as good as she wanted to be, well, you look at her run and they gave her opportunities. You remember that Survivor Series, I think it was 2018, right, if I'm not mistaken, the one where she got really just beat up by Charlotte Flair. She just got beat up bad, and the fans turned on her. She was meant to be this baby face, but she got beat up hard by Charlotte, and they booed Ronda out of the building, and she looked legit just devastated, like she couldn't believe what was happening. Well, that's a sign of bad booking. That's a sign of not knowing who is over and how they are over. If you brought her in as a heel to start, it would have been a completely different run. And in 2023, she comes back at the Royal Rumble, I think it was, where she wins. And she goes on a run, and eventually her final match is that SummerSlam 2023 match against Shayna Baszler, where Shayna Baszler went over. And it's just a lackluster run overall. If you look at that year she was there, where she main evented at 35, if you look at her coming back in 2023, it was all kind of poorly booked and somewhat lackluster. She never came across as a legitimate babyface on the mic. And when she was a heel, it always kind of came across as whiny a little bit, like, I did everything I could to support this business. Why don't the fans love me? This isn't right. I'm entitled. Now, look, if that's built behind a character, fine. If that's the character she wants to portray, then fine. But it almost kind of sounded like a shoot. And that's not a character. And I don't know. I think she brought a lot of star power to the industry. I do think she helped get Becky Lynch over. I think that sort of real-life feud, that on-screen feud that bled over into real life against Becky Lynch, was one of the reasons that helped propel Becky Lynch further than what she already was. So you have to give her credit there for helping to get someone over. right? I mean, they were in a feud. It was a triple threat match, the main event. Becky Lynch got a pin on Ronda Rousey. True, she got her shoulder up, but hey, she got put over at the end of the day, right? Becky Lynch was put over by Ronda Rousey. And it helped elevate her further, talking about Becky Lynch. So you have to give her some credit there. But I don't know. I feel like when she says that they didn't let her achieve everything that she could, when she says things like they kept her in mediocrity, I don't know. I think she had plenty of shots to get over, but I do think she was dreadfully miscast. That's all for this one, guys. Thank you.